The Leaning Tower of Pisa shouldn't exist anymore. By all logic, it should have collapsed centuries ago. This wasn't a small flaw or a little miscalculation. This was a monumental engineering disaster in the making. Imagine spending decades building something only to watch it slowly tilt, inch by inch, year after year, completely out of your control. And yet, here it stands today, defying gravity and logic alike. But why didn't it fall? The answer lies in one of the most remarkable rescue missions in engineering history, a rescue that took over 800 years to complete. You've seen the photos, the tourists pretending to hold it up with their hands, the iconic lean against the Italian skyline. But what you probably don't know is just how close we came to losing this piece of history forever, or that the very thing that saved it involved a solution so counterintuitive, it might actually blow your mind. Engineers had to do the unthinkable, make it lean more to save it. Sounds wild, right? Stick around because we're diving deep into the fascinating story of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, how it nearly collapsed multiple times, and the genius methods engineers used to pull off a seemingly impossible fix. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand why the tower leans, but also why it's still leaning, on purpose. Let's set the scene. Pisa, Italy, 1173. The city was booming, a hub of trade and wealth, and the people of Pisa wanted to show off their prosperity. Their plan? Build a stunning cathedral complex that would rival any other in the world. This wasn't just about faith, it was about making a statement. And at the heart of this grand design was the bell tower, what we now know as the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Construction began with high hopes. White marble was brought in, and the tower's architects envisioned a perfectly vertical masterpiece to symbolize Pisa's power and prestige. But just as quickly as the foundation was laid, trouble began. By the time workers reached the third floor, the tower had already started to lean. Imagine the confusion, the disbelief. A structure meant to be a symbol of strength was already failing before it was even finished. What caused this? The answer is hidden beneath the ground. The soil in Pisa is soft, composed of clay, sand, and silt. It's not exactly the best material to support a 14,500-ton marble structure. And the tower's shallow foundation, just 3 meters deep, didn't help. Essentially, the ground beneath the tower was uneven, and the weight of the structure caused it to sink and tilt. But here's the kicker. They didn't stop building. They kept going, hoping the problem would somehow resolve itself. Spoiler, it didn't. Over the next few centuries, the tower became a curiosity, a marvel of flawed design. It leaned more and more, year by year, but somehow it didn't topple. Fast forward to the 20th century, and the lean had become so severe that the tower was officially declared unsafe. Something had to be done, or the tower would face imminent collapse. By the late 1980s, the Leaning Tower of Pisa wasn't just leaning, it was dangerously close to falling. The tilt had reached an angle of 5.5 degrees, which might not sound like much, but for a structure standing over 55 meters tall, it was catastrophic. Engineers calculated that the tower could only lean so far before gravity would take over and send it crashing to the ground. It was only a matter of time. And here's where things got even more complicated. Any attempt to stabilize the tower risked making things worse. Traditional methods of straightening a leaning building, like jacking it up or adding supports, wouldn't work here. The soil beneath the tower was so unstable that even minor adjustments could trigger a collapse. Think of it like trying to balance a pencil on a table made of jelly. But that wasn't the only challenge. The Leaning Tower of Pisa wasn't just any building. It was a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a beloved symbol of Italian culture, and a major tourist attraction. Fixing the tilt completely wasn't an option. The lean had become part of its identity, part of its charm. People came from all over the world to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa, not the perfectly vertical Tower of Pisa. So, engineers had to thread an impossibly fine needle, stabilize the tower to prevent it from falling while preserving its iconic lean. And they had to do it without damaging the delicate 800-year-old structure. The first step was to understand exactly what was happening beneath the tower. Engineers conducted extensive studies of the soil and the foundation, using advanced tools like ground-penetrating radar and computer simulations. What they found was both fascinating and terrifying. The tower wasn't just leaning, it was slowly sinking into the ground on one side. The uneven compression of the soil was causing the tilt to worsen over time. To stabilize the tower, engineers needed to address the soil directly. This is where things got really innovative. One of the most effective techniques they used was something called soil extraction. Essentially, they removed small amounts of soil from beneath the higher side of the foundation. This allowed the tower to gently settle back into a more stable position. It sounds simple, but the process was incredibly delicate. Remove too much soil, and the tower could collapse. Remove too little, and the tilt wouldn't improve. But that wasn't all. Engineers also added counterweights to the base of the tower on the higher side. These weights, massive blocks of lead, helped balance the structure and reduce the stress on the foundation. At the same time, steel cables were anchored to the tower to provide additional support, acting like a safety net in case anything went wrong. One of the most surprising discoveries during this process was that the tower's lean actually helped it survive earthquakes. The tilt caused the tower's center of gravity to shift, making it less susceptible to the vibrations that typically bring down tall buildings. In a way, the very thing that made the tower unstable also made it resilient. The moment of truth came in the early 2000s. After years of careful planning and execution, engineers managed to reduce the tower's tilt by about 17 inches. It doesn't sound like much, but it was enough to stabilize the structure and ensure its survival for generations to come. The Leaning Tower of Pisa was finally safe. But here's the most fascinating part. The engineers didn't straighten the tower completely. They left a slight lean, enough to preserve its iconic appearance while ensuring it wouldn't collapse. It was a delicate balance between science and art, between preservation and innovation. Today, the Leaning Tower of Pisa stands as a testament to human ingenuity. It's a reminder that even our biggest mistakes can become our greatest achievements with the right approach. So the next time you see a photo of the Leaning Tower of Pisa, remember this. It's not just a quirky tourist attraction. It's a symbol of resilience, creativity, and the incredible lengths we'll go to preserve history. The tower leans because of a mistake made over 800 years ago, but it stands today because of the brilliance of modern engineering.